Welcome to episode 5 of Bouldersaurus. There were no new climbs set this week, so I'm using this opportunity to highlight some climbs from previous sets, as well as show 2 projects I've been working on. I hope you enjoy what I have prepared, and let's get started. We start this video with a fun and flowy V5 that features pinches. As you know from previous videos, pinches are a weak point for me, but despite that, I found this climb very enjoyable. The climb starts by moving through a series of juggy crimps before moving into the crux section. The hardest move is this big cross to the right hand pinch, because it forces you to move across your center of mass and makes it really easy to get off balance. The pinches are wide and not the best, but luckily if you can move quickly, you can make it to the better pinches on the top of the climb and finish it up. This next climb is one of my favorites because I can make use of my underwhelming climbing superpower, getting scrunchy. These wafer holds are flat on the top, which means you have to really rely on body position to keep you close to the wall, more so than finger strength. The crux move is scrunching up to this high foot on the start hold, and then using a back flag to match the next hold. It's a little bit hard to see in the video, but I really have to keep my hips close to the wall in order to avoid slipping off these flat-topped holds. If you're unfamiliar with bouldering, some climbs end at the top of the wall, and others require you to get both hands on the last hold. This one finishes at the top of the wall. Now, we move on to one of the projects featured in this video. When climbing close to your limit, it's common to work on a boulder over multiple sessions. Usually this involves trying individual moves and then trying to link them all together. It's not uncommon for a climber to be able to do every move on a boulder, but have yet to climb it in its entirety. This requires carefully planned rest and a focused mind, both of which are things I'm working on. I have a bad habit of not resting for long enough between attempts, and when I'm trying to complete a boulder, I tend to think about how I'm going to fail miserably, which affects my ability to try hard. This climb is an odd one, as none of the moves felt particularly hard, and the boulder itself looks very doable, yet I had trouble on it despite this, and observed a lot of other climbers struggling as well. I first attempted this climb when returning from my neck injury, which made it so I had to avoid falling from high up. This climb has its hardest series of moves quite high off the ground, so I think I developed some apprehension on this climb, which prevented me from giving it my all. This climb starts with some long moves to establish on this volume, which have 2 small holds on it. The next volume looks good, but is surprisingly difficult to hold at this angle. I think the difficulty of this climb comes from the fact that almost every hold requires readjusting. You'll notice I have to constantly correct my grip to compensate for the slippery nature of the holds. This uses up energy and makes the hard moves at the top of this climb even more challenging. I knew once I stuck the crux move, I would be able to finish the climb. I just needed to make sure not to do anything silly. This climb has a finish hold, indicated by a little tag underneath it that's a little bit hard to see on the video. This next project took me longer to complete. The previous climb was more of a mental hurdle than a physical one, but this green V8 was much more physically demanding. Pretty much every hold was a small crimp, and despite liking these holds, using the same grip on an entire climb can be an endurance challenge. Right from the start, this climb is difficult, requiring back-to-back cross moves that require very precise movement of the hips. It's really easy to move too slow or too fast here and slip off the holds. You'll notice my first difficulty is with the second cross move. I realized that I was moving my body to the right too soon and not giving myself enough time to secure the left hand. You can see my hips moving to the right too soon and throwing off my momentum. It's not until this attempt that I really keep my torso steady until I can secure the hold. Luckily, the next 2 moves are the easiest on the climb and is a good chance to rest for a second, but it quickly gets tricky again going for this large, slopey hold. It's very challenging to get a good grip on this hold, given it's too big to really pinch properly and too sloped to crimp. This was my best attempt during my first session, but you can see how tired I am towards the top. This is what makes projecting a climb difficult. Sometimes, once you figure it out, you're too tired to climb and must come back on another day. And that's what I did. This was my second session trying this climb, but I only gave it 1 attempt this day. You can get a good look here as to what the first few holds look like to get an idea of the finger strength required to hold on to them. Sometimes you really need to push hard to get a move and give it all you've got, but as you can see here, I did not push hard enough. This brings us to the third session of trying this climb. I was much more strategic this time about timing my rests between attempts to increase my chances of completing the climb. This first attempt started okay, but I ran into the same issue on my second session, a lack of commitment. I didn't give this move to the left-hand crimp enough power, and therefore just barely was able to get my fingers around it, and didn't feel comfortable to make the hard cross move after it. On this attempt, I was able to make the move to the left hand, but I did not commit enough to the following move. If you watch my right foot, you'll see it barely try to stay on that foothold. I almost ended this third attempt here because I placed my right foot wrong and had to spend needless energy adjusting it, but I decided to move on anyway. When climbing a hard problem, you need to be very precise to conserve your energy. After the hard cross, I climb a bit slower through these next two moves to catch my... I wrote catch my breath a moment before moving on to the difficult top. Here, I am precise moving out to the left hand and also commit enough to the right hand cross. You'll notice I deliberately pause here for a moment because I know I'm close and I don't want to rush. This was helpful as it gave me enough of a moment to regather my thoughts and finish the climb. That one felt good. You might have noticed those trunk-like blue holds next to the green climb and thought, wow, I wish I could see that climb. Not really sure where I was going with this, but well, here's that blue climb. This climb starts with a high heel hook and a big move to the second large trunk hold. It's slippery and rounded and requires using your entire hand and wrist to hold onto. The next two holds are good, but they're upside down, which requires you to really stand up into them, as you can see here as I get a high left foot. After this, the moves to the two final trunks gave other folks the most trouble, but I found this part to be quite a bit easier than the start of the climb. It's probably because I'm used to climbing on these holds and know what to expect from them.
Spend all your time waiting for that.
We'll finish this video with some climbing on the tension board. The tension board is a training tool for climbing and can be found at many gyms across the world. You can use an app to try out different climbs set by people and upload your own as well. I hardly ever use the board, but decided to try it out today and was able to find this really fun V6 climb called Made Money. I'll play the actual sound on this last part, as I think it clearly conveys the strong sense of community you find at the climbing gym, and what keeps me hooked on the sport. Enjoy. I'm really bad at rest.
I'm literally timing it. It's actually only been a minute.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah, I have a timer going.
Since you started timing.
Come on, Matt. Yeah, man, come on. Push into the foot, pull in. Come on, come on. Yes! Woo! Nice.
Thanks.
Need the motivation.
Bouldersaurus Rex, baby.
Thank you so much for watching, and see you next week.